Right, hello and welcome. We're actually not doing any more physics now. That is the end of Unit 2. Well, we might do some more physics later on. But for the moment, we're going to do a bit of economics. I know, business, economics, physics, get some maths soon, get some logarithms going. Anyway, so the first thing we're going to do is, it's not the starting what I'd like to start with personally to get you into it, but I'm going to start with aggregate supply. It's quite interesting and there's a few bits and things you need to know about it. So let's get cracking. So, first thing we need to do is define aggregate supply. I'm going to write it at the top and I'll leave it on for you to copy down. So, aggregate supply is the total output. Got it right in the end. Output, that doesn't bode well for the rest of the video, but oh no, mind. Total output, that is that output in an economy at any given price level over a given period of time. Sorry. So you're given quite a lot there. Hey. So total output in an economy, any given price level over a given period of time. So that's very well saying that, fancy words, given this, take that, shoot it down the drain, but what does it actually mean? Well, aggregate supply is basically the amount that the suppliers want to supply in the market. Is quite obvious really, but this is there's a lot of ways in which it's similar to supply. You may have done in F581. This is the OCR course, by the way, or AQA, I don't know, could be either, could be both, but you know, you're watching the video so you should probably put it on the title. Anyway, aggregate supply. So it's from the supplier's point of view, as I said. There's two types of supply curve. There's the short run supply curve and there's the long run supply curve. And in the long run supply curve we have two types of that, but the long run and short run is the main differences. And now you might say, well, the short run is for the short term and the long run is for the long term. It's obvious. But what does that actually mean? Well, the short run is it's immediate. So you can't just bring in 7,000 workers from, just dig them out of the ground, go, you're going to work for me and I don't care if you like it or not, which would obviously demotivate the employee. Just dug them up and they're not going to like that. Anyway, so, my waffling again. So, you've got your, two types of long run, of aggregate supply diagram, long run, short run, and two types of long run. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a short run. So that is your, one sec, let me finish drawing up. Short run, aggregate supply curve. So I don't know if you can see that, but that is the short run aggregate supply curve there. Yeah, so in the short run it assumes that all factors of production remain constant, which is kind of what I said before. Now the aggregate supply, and let me just check. Yep, so just making sure that the formulas were right. See, I'm not using a book here at all. So, you may be asking, well, what are you doing? I'm teaching economics, a bit, hopefully, maybe. And the question you actually might be asking is, what are the two labels? You haven't put any labels on there. Well, to answer your question, give me a second. So, average price level is on 1. Now, the average price level, it takes into account, because we're talking about macroeconomics, the whole of the economy, which will be in another video soon enough, you'll enjoy that. So it takes into the account the whole price level over the whole economy, not just a primary sector or a private sector, for example. And then along the bottom we've got real GDP, real national output. This is also known, by the way, as real GDP. So I just put real GDP, just to confuse you basically. No other reason why. You might be asking, well, what's GDP and what's real GDP? And we've got something called nominal GDP as well. And I'm gonna hide that from you. You're gonna have to visit one of my other videos. Probably gonna be called economic growth, but you can enjoy that at a later date. So if that scared you. So anyway, just imagine real GDP is GDP at factor cost. That's just a statement there. So, why, you may be asking, why does it slope upwards? I mean, if it's a short run aggregate supply curve, there's one thing we know for certain, that we can't actually increase the productive capacity of the economy. We can't go, we'll just stretch it. We'll pull some poor guy, we'll stretch it, we'll cut him in half, put him in one job over there, put him in one job over there. He's probably going to cry. There might be some bruises along the way, and newspaper scandals, and people hacking your phones. Anyway, so why does it slope upwards? Now the main reason for that is, obviously we can't, as I said, improve the factors, increase the factors of production. So we have to sort of make do with our already there factors of production. The one thing I'm going to concentrate on most of all is the workers. So you've got your workers, and then be working 9 to 5, for example. But that'll get you, say, we're at point A, and we want to get to point B. And you say, right, we want to increase our output. How do we do that? Well, you can ask your workers to work overtime. Now, there are other ways of increasing capacity, which is more of a business topic, but I'll keep it for economics in terms of the short run aggregate supply curve. Which is strange, here's we're doing aggregate supply. Anyway, so to increase that, what we need to do is we ask the workers to work overtime. Go, Jim Bob Jones, you want to work 5 hours more? He's going to go, no, I'd rather sit on my backside, watch some person on Jeremy Kyle got taken the mick out of because they're missing a tooth and they had a baby when they were 12. Well, actually, it's not the... He's probably going to say no. As he said, he's probably going to say no. And even if you offer him the same wage, he's probably going to say no again. Because he's going, if I wanted to work longer hours, I would ask to work longer hours. Even my shoulders are getting bored of me now. Anyway, so to increase the supply curve, we have to pay them more than they would normally. And then you go, yeah, I'll do that, no problem. I'll help you out just for another £200 an hour. Of course, we would all like to do that, but certain rules and regulations in place. So you might ask them to pay more. So let's assume we've got the same workers and we're paying them more. So in terms, when I say more wages, that just means paying more out in terms of a wage. Or wage. We're assuming they're on wages, by the way. Or salaries, but that's paying wages for overtime. So yeah, let's assume they're paying more wages. Now, that's going to, a wage represents a significant cost to a business, whether it be a fixed cost for a salary or a variable cost, which is more likely to happen in this case as a wage, if you want to ask them to work overtime. So, as we know, profit is, I know it's more of a business topic, I know, but firms always want to increase their profits. So, if you increase their wage, it's going to represent a significant cost. And they're going to want to get rid of that cost. You're going to go, I don't want this cost. You, Jim Bob Joe, down the street, you have it, you pay our costs. And obviously, we're going to turn that in. We can't just say, oh, we'll keep the iPad of £200, except we're going to charge another £20 on the side just for, because Jim worked after hours to make it. First of all, you're going to be a little bit concerned. So if they don't tell you that, all they do is increase the price and involve it in the price that you or I may buy. Or you, because I don't need an iPad. Sorry, I've got a whiteboard, alright? So, more wages. So that means it's going to be passed on to the consumer in the form of a higher price. However, if a company doesn't want to do that, which is unlikely, then they won't want to supply at a higher price unless it's more profitable for them. So, otherwise they'd be quite happy if they're getting the same profit as they did before. Then what's the point in wasting our resources and increasing our utilisation, possibly lower the workers' motivation, low quality, etc. I know it's more capacity utilisation, it's more a business topic, but still supply. So that is why the supply curve slopes upwards. As the price level increases, as the real GDP increases, the average price level increases because of the wage. Now that is the short run aggregate supply curve. However, just like the supply curve, well, that's why it slopes upwards. Now, just like the supply curve, you've got a few things you need to know. Like, for example, the determinants. So what are the factors? So obviously we know it's the same rule. So if it changes price, it moves along. So it can move from, that's GDP. It could move from P, Y, to P1, Y1. And see that would increase price, increase output. Yeah, that would increase price and increase the output. So that's a change in price. It causes movement along the supply curve. Sorry about that, just forgot. So what would cause a shift of it? So shift to the right or shift to the left? Now there's a couple of factors that we need to consider. However, let me just make sure I've got this right. Sorry. Oh dear. Long day. Right. Nearly there, aren't we? Sake. Right, okay. Sorry about that. So there's two things that cause this, is productive capacity and the God's sake. Productive capacity and the cost of production, the two main factors that cause this to shift, and cause the supply curve to shift. So what are the sort of in-depth sort of topic things that make it shift, which is the ones that you need to know about? Clearly I don't. I'm only kidding. I'm just making sure I get the right ones. So there's ones about the workforce, or the labour force. And this is split into categories of the size and the skills. So you could have a large workforce, but it might not be effective as a small workforce with more skills that can apply themselves to more jobs, or vice versa. But the ideal thing you want is a larger workforce with more skills. And this means that labour productivity increases, so your unit cost decrease, and again, that's another business topic, but that's generally what you need to know. So as a cost of production, lower, suppliers can produce more because it's more profitable for them. So, and I already said that, so before really, about technical progress, so technical innovation, technical stuff. Obviously you're not going to write this on your exam, technical stuff. Just as itsy bitsy, bits and bobs, this and that kind of things aren't accepted. So, and then you've got changes of, mainly the rest of these is costs of production. So you could have your wages, which we talked about before. your raw materials, and or rent. So they're your three big ones that you've got going there. Now we already talked about this. Oh, well, you've got inflation as well, which is about price. So we can just give you a moment to pause that. Hopefully you've got that one. Right. Sorry about my rubber, it's going a bit. To do the best. Oh, never mind. Right. It's a bit better. Anyway, so the next thing we're going to go on to is the labour market. So this is the wage rate up the side. And this does lead us on to the next two long run aggregate supply curves, which is why we're doing it. And then on demand, on the bottom we've got quantity of labour. So there are your two main things. Okay, so let's draw the supply curve. So supply for labour and demand for labour. Now, I mean, if you think about it, it is quite self-explanatory in the way that obviously the suppliers will want to, so the suppliers are the firms, the hirers, the users of the labour force, not in that way, but in a way. So, you've got your suppliers and they want to pay the lowest wage possible because the lowest wage will mean the lowest cost and highest profit. The other way around for the demand for labour, that is in terms of the workers. Now they will want to work for the highest wage they possibly can get so they can have a higher disposable and discretionary income. Now a disposable income is the income received by a business after taxes have, after taxes have been deducted. A discretionary income is after the necessities have been paid for, heating, light, food, gigantic elephant, as you do in your front garden, with a massive chain necklace to stomp at anyone you don't like, some kind of thing. So this is your supply, your quantity of labour. So the first thing we can notice, without even knowing anything about this, is we know supply and demand are equal. That is our equilibrium. Gives us a wage rate of just call it P, and quantity of labour Q. However, we may have a situation where the demand curve shifts to the left. This could be, for example, in a recession. So firms need less workers because the people are able to afford less, so the demand is less, so they need less workers because they need to produce less output. And you would imagine that the equilibrium would go from E to E1. Now that's not necessarily the case. You may have something called workers' unions, and now these are great for workers because they support the workers and they go, yeah, we're going to stand up for you. You're not going to work for 5 pence an hour. Approximately in 5 hours you might have enough money to buy a Freddo. So there's going to always be some resistance to change. And how can we tell this on this diagram we've already drawn without drawing another line of movements, like over whatever? So we've got these workers at this point who are happy to move to E1 and work for a wage rate of P1 and put an output of Q1. There's many happy workers who will say, yeah, you know what, we've accepted, there's no way we're going to be able to challenge the firm in our wage decreases because they give enough a job. you may have some people that are arrogant and go, no, we aren't moving. No, I go pub and get a pint. So you get them kind of people, and they don't want to work for a lower wage rate. So we have this difference between DL1, demand for labour 1, and the demand for labour and the supply of labour intersecting the original curves. And at this point we have something called unemployment. I just put it as denoted by U over E. That is unemployment. And our workers' trade unions will want to say, yeah, we'll keep the wage rate the same, but the demand curve is shifted. So that will either indicate that the workers will eventually have to acknowledge that they are going to work for a lower wage rate, and that they don't have a choice or say in the matter. And if they continue to be arrogant and idiotic, especially in the terms of a recession, then you might get someone who goes, you know, I'll work for their job, I'll take their job, I'll work for the lower wage, and that will eventually decrease their wages. Yeah. So you've got two types of economists in the world. There's me, honestly, the one to listen to, and I'm joking, but there are two types that you need to know about for your exam. Now the first type is about classical economists, and they think, well, the market works absolutely perfectly, because when we have a larger amount of labour, like in terms of too much for the economy, they will accept the lower wage rate and be able to work for lower wages, so the firms can produce more, and that's almost instantly. So this tells us the economy will always be working at its full potential, as these changes happen almost seamlessly. However, the Keynesian supply curve, long run aggregate supply curve, dictates that no, this does not happen. They are sticky wages, if you like to call them that, and the workers will resist these wages, which is more likely to happen. So that's the kind of economist I am if I was one, which of course I am. So you get them two types of economists, and they obviously create two totally different diagrams, but the key thing to remember, at the end of both of these diagrams, they both look exactly the same. If you could chop the little bit off, you'd... oh wait, that sounds totally wrong. Anyway, if you chop a little bit off at the end, then you'd have exactly the same looking diagrams. So what we're going to do first is a basic one. As I said just then, the classical economist says they happen almost instantly, so we always have a full capacity. So this means the capacity of the economy is going to be a straight vertical line, as it never changes, as the output is always assumed to be at the top level, whatever level that may be. So we're going to draw the same sort of diagram. So there's one there, and yeah, these are the same values, so average P and real GDP, and the line just goes straight up, okay, and that is LRAS. That is a long run aggregate supply curve. Now there are movements in this, and I just do them. I'll do them later on actually, but I'll leave that diagram up there so you can see the difference between the two. Now the other one is the Keynesian long run aggregate supply curve. Now this says the wages are very sticky and they don't like to move. So what we have here is we have the same diagram. We've got the average price level, I just put average price, and then across we have the real GDP. So how does this formulate itself? Well, if it's sticky, it's going to slowly go up and then straight up, so it's almost vertical. And then it does actually become vertical. That's meant to be lower. Sorry. No. So we have two ranges here. We have the first bit, which should be flat, and we call that the unused capacity. And this is very flat because the firm has unused resources such as unused machinery, and loads of people are in unemployment, so they're willing to work for a very low wage. This means it's almost pointless changing the price level because the wage is so insignificant. So this gives a horizontal line over the middle bit as we're starting to ramp up the amount of workers we're using, the amount of machines we're using. We start to get rid of these resources. When I say get rid, we use them up. This means they become scarce. And this creates an intermediate range. Oh, I could spell intermediate range. And this intermediate range is where they start becoming scarce. And now this means you have to pay them more to produce more, and when I say pay them more, you have to pay them more a higher wage. Otherwise they won't work for your company, they'll work for someone else who's offering a even higher wage than you are. So this tells you, as they're scarce, they're becoming highly competitive. So they will start to outbid each other. So, and as we said before, firms like to hold on to as much profit as they can as their net profit margin, which is more a business term again, but if you're doing business, that's a term you should know about. So, yeah, so as they want to maintain their profit margin, they increase their price to cover the costs onto the consumer. So this brings it up to the intermediate range. And now when it gets vertical, we call this full capacity. Well, anything after immediate, full capacity. And this is vertical because it's assumed there are no more workers, there is full employment. Now full employment doesn't mean even kids are working in factories. I mean, it's like modern day Elizabethan, Victorian Britain, whatever you want to call it. Don't do history, sorry about that. So yeah, full capacity, full employment, so everyone who wants a job is given a job at a given wage rate. Yeah, so that's full employment. So we physically can't get any more out of our economy. So that's why that appears to be up there. So we said we were going to do some shifts on this curve. Hopefully you've noted that down. What we're going to do now is I'm going to draw the same diagram again. Well, it might not look the same, but it's meant to. And I'm going to assume I'm not bothered writing out the labels again, because hopefully you can see them on the other one. It'd be just a bit of a faff. So you've got the LRAS curve there. Now you might have a, as I said, increased productive potential of the economy is one of them, and the other one's decreasing unit costs. Now I'm going to go with increasing productive capacity. And if we increase productive capacity, we move it here, and obviously the magnitude of the shift depends on the magnitude of the increase in potential output. So we're going to call this LRAS1, long run aggregate supply curve 1. This is the classical one. Or if an economy decreases productive potential, we come to LRAS2, and it goes that way. Hopefully you've seen where we're coming from on that scale. You may be asking, well, we talked about how the short run aggregate supply could change, but we've not talked about the long run aggregate supply changing in capacity or reasons for it. Now there's a supply of labour is one of them, so labour, and we've got supply, and the increase in human capital, so that's the skills of the workers, as I said, basically the labour force, so just another rambling on there. Improved healthcare, so the workers are more productive for longer, they take less days off, and this increases the capacity of the economy even more. Training, which is also education, or it could be any form of improving the skills of the workers, and an increase in investment. There's also a few more, for example, technological discovery of raw materials, and greater incentives to work. So that could be promotion inside a business, but if a person is very bothered about that, that may not have the desired effect on everyone. Or you could give financial incentives, but of course that would represent a significant cost to the business. Because you won't want to just say, hey Jim, work hard and I'll give you £5. He'll go, you know what, I'm going to earn that £5, I'm going to earn my day's wage. And just for an example, it's a day's wage, some people. Anyway, so you can increase, but that might have not desired effects, such as losing the quality of the work to meet the targets and get the £5. Because they're not bothered about the quality of the work generally. They are bothered about the money and the incentive to work the little bit, produce a little bit more, and it's whether about the quality. Hopefully that's given you an overview. I know that's been a long one. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I was going to say I have, but it's quite sad. You know, anyway, I'll see you in the next video.